Hi there, CATIP candidates. I wanted to take an opportunity to reach out to you on a couple of different fashions to check in and make sure that we're good to go as we move into this spring session of CATIP. There's a lot that's going to be going on over the course of this semester for you, whether you're involved in CDE field days, FFA judging events, speaking events, conferences, professional development, and so forth. And we want to make sure that you know where you stand and what you need to do in CATIP to be able to clear your credentials. There are a couple assignments that are big coming up. Among them, there are your weekly conversation logs, your spring evidence, your final inquiry project, and your mentor observation. Year 2 members, remember that you will also have a final presentation due at summer conference, and some of that information will be coming out shortly. I want to take a real quick moment to go over some of these assignments to help clear up anything that came up in our fall session. First off, your weekly conversation logs are meant to be an opportunity for you to touch base with your mentor. It can be in the form of a phone call, a text message, an email, an in-face conversation. Though we would prefer those in-face conversations, we realize that's not always feasible on a weekly basis, depending on where your mentor is. So, make sure that they're being completed along the goals and guidelines of your individualized learning plan. We want to make sure that these conversations aren't burdensome, but they're an opportunity for you to touch base relative to the things that you said you needed in the beginning of this program. Moving on to our spring evidence, a couple of things to keep in mind. This document is really just a place for you to reflect on those things that you normally do as an ag teacher anyways. While we say that you should keep a copy of some of the documents in a local folder, be it in a filing cabinet, Google Drive, Dropbox, Box, whatever works for you, we want to make sure that you are amassing curriculum, you're amassing experiences that you have in agricultural education so you can use them in the future. The spring evidence document is really just meant as a central hub to keep track of all of that. So we've given you some ideas of things that would count as evidence for each of the small submissions within this full assignment. And it's up to you to figure out what those things are going to be, from your spring region meetings to region meetings and so forth as we move forward. Document your reflections about what happened at those events and how they've helped you according to your ILP goals, and then you'll submit that at the end of this session. Another thing that's coming up is your inquiry project. This is different between first and second year CATIP members. For first years, you have the FFA chapter constitution and bylaws. This is something that every FFA chapter should have, and every well-rounded agriculture program should have access to for their teachers as well as their members on a regular basis. This is different for different programs. Our goal is that you can digitize it in some fashion and make sure that it's submitted to the Moodle platform. It's up to you whether or not you involve all of your FFA officers in developing this, whether it's officially approved or not. Ultimately, the goal is to get the ball rolling on making sure that your constitution and bylaws are looked at on a regular basis. For year 2s, we take this a step further, and your inquiry project is based on the program of activity guidelines outlined by the National FFA. We want to make sure that you're looking more holistically at your entire program and developing it appropriately. This gives you an opportunity to develop another award-winning application in the process. And again, like the FFA chapter constitution and bylaws, this isn't something that you have to do all by yourself. This is something that you can include your FFA officers in and anybody else in your program, depending on how you'd like to structure this, whatever makes sense for you. However, again, you will have to make sure that this document is digital and submitted to the Moodle platform by the end of the spring session. The last thing that you'll have to do is another mentor observation. Remember, this is the place where we really get an idea of how you've grown over the course of the year. It'll be an observation that should be based in your reflections for your ILP, on your individual learning plan goals, and something that should help your growth. We are measuring you in terms of all 6 California standards for the teaching profession, and really with a bend on its application to agricultural education. So while your focus is going to be in a couple of the areas in a couple of the CSTPs, relative to what you've outlined in your ILP, we're still going to be evaluating you along all of the guidelines or all of the CSTPs just to get a baseline. For year twos, this will be a space where you'll jump into your third year and informally assess what you're doing as you've left CATIP. For year ones, this will be an opportunity for you to look back on after this second observation is done and develop a new ILP for your second year in CATIP to get an idea for what else you want to improve on. What's next? Otherwise, year twos, you will have a final presentation at summer conference. Some of that information and a mock template will be coming out on Moodle shortly for you to be able to follow as we get through the rest of the spring session. It'll be due prior to the actual summer conference, and more instructions and information will evolve with that as that's released to you. Otherwise, keep in mind that in everything that's happening, you might want to take a break from your regular duties and spend some time with a cohort of teachers around your age and around your experience level in agricultural education. This is where the new professional conference comes in. Over 2 days, you'll have an opportunity to network with your peers. You'll have an opportunity to say, hey, this is what I need help with in my classroom. Go through workshops that will give you a little bit of a recharge, a shot in the arm at a much needed time during the year. Although it comes during what we would deem as March Madness, it's still a great opportunity to remember that every now and then you have to take a break. You have to step back from the busyness and the craziness that happens in life and connect with your peers, connect with the family that we call agricultural education. So I encourage you to make sure that you've registered for this conference and stay tuned to other information that we'll have coming out for CATIP. And if we don't get to connect in the meantime, I look forward to connecting with you all at summer conference in San Luis Obispo. Take care.